You're listening to the Wordslinger Podcast, episode 89, Exploring Bookfunnel with Damon Courtney.
Writing a book. It can be the best way to build or grow your business, or to simply tell the story that you wish to tell. Learn how to write your book in 30 days or less. Pick up 30-day offer today from Amazon, Apple iBooks, or other online retailers.
It's the Wordslinger Podcast, where story matters. Build your brand, write your book, redefine who you are. It's all about the story here. What's yours? Now, here's the guy who invented pants optional, Kevin Tomlinson, the Wordslinger.
Wordslinger.
Good morning, everybody. That was probably the lamest intro I've ever done. Hi, how are ya? This is Kevin Tomlinson, the Wordslinger. I don't know why I always feel the need to say that after you literally just listened to the entire intro where my name was given and my title was given. But you're welcome. Tradition. So I'm having a good time this morning, although I will admit there's a little bit of there's a niggling little worry in my soul right now because my wife just took our dog Minnie to the vet where we originally we were hoping to get her fixed and get the chip, the microchip, but turns out we don't know this for sure yet, but we suspect that Minnie may actually be pregnant, and that is driving us nuts because we've been very careful. When we got her, she was in heat. So we were very careful. And we, about a week after we got her, we had to leave her with a doggy daycare. And we gave very specific instructions. And they said even that, they couldn't put her they couldn't let her mingle with the population because she was in heat. So we're not sure, but we think that may have been a point at which she encountered another puppy. But then there is some suspicion that she may have been pregnant when we got her. So there you go. We may have more little puppies. If we do, then I'm going to have some puppies available. So if you've been looking for a tiny, tiny little dog, and they will be tiny dogs because Minnie is, she's only like a 6-pound Chihuahua. So I think she's like a Chihuahua Terrier mix. Actually, we've been working on that. Anyway. Those are my doghouse blues. Not that big a deal, except it complicates things a little. I'm going to be at NINC, Novel Writers Inc., in the conference in St. Petersburg Beach, Florida. I'm going to be there the 21st through that week, the week of the 21st, September. If you happen to be there, stop by and say hi. I'm there representing Draft to Digital. I'll be there with Dan Wood and Chris Austin, the CEO of Draft to Digital. And, we're going to meet and greet and have a good time. I'm looking forward to it. It's a big conference. If you get a chance, if you're not already registered, go register for that. Just to come see me, but also to connect with, agents and publishers and other novelists. That was the right term. People in the industry, so that you can. Let me just put it this way: some of the best opportunities in my life have come out of going to events like this, and it doesn't seem like that would be the case sometimes because you go. Sometimes you spend a lot of money, and a lot of time, and you walk away with very little to show for it. Let me give you the secret to real networking. It's to actually talk to people. There are events and there are discussions and panels that you should go to. You should try to take in as much of that experience as you can to learn and grow. But my experience is that I actually make more connections in line waiting to get into an event, or in the bar in the hotel, or somewhere like that, where I'm really just starting up a conversation with somebody. The thing about writers in particular, we tend to be introverts. Believe it or not, I am an introvert. No one ever believes that, but we'll call me a high functioning introvert. I'm an introvert who likes attention, but then I get sort of used up, right? So my energy gets low. So even at this conference, I will end up at some point when the noise is high, the ambient noise level gets high, when there's so many people that I can't connect with an individual right away, I will start to withdraw too. So I understand how you feel, but the big advantage of these things is don't go in with an agenda. Don't go in saying, I'm going to meet the agents and I'm going to get their names and I'm going to I want to pepper them with pitches and that sort of thing. Don't do that. Just go in with the idea of you're there because of who you are. They're there because of who they are, and see who you can click with on a personal level. And it's those personal relationships and those personal connections that end up bringing you the best opportunities. Trust me. Anybody you have to force to pay attention to you is never going to treat you with the kind of respect you deserve. So don't force anyone's attention. Go in and be yourself. Talk to as many people as you can. Don't worry about who they are or how they're related to anything that any goal that you have for your career. Just talk to people, get to know them on a personal level, and you're going to see a whole lot of great opportunities come out of that. That's my big advice for this episode, out of the blue, because this episode does not have anything to do with Nink or networking or anything like that, except, let me see if I can segue this in. The guest I have today, okay, here it is. I met him at one of these events. There you go. I met Damon Courtney at the, it wasn't called the Smarter Artist Summit at the time. It was called the Colonist Summit, put on by the same guys from the self-publishing podcast, Johnny, Sean, Dave, Sterling, and Stone. And, Damon was one of like 20 people, including me, that attended that event. And we had a round table. We had a hot seat where we got to, kind of sit and talk about our careers and our goals and, get some advice from everyone in the room, including those guys. And that was a watershed moment for my career. It was a point at which I decided I was on the wrong path, and I started dedicating myself to writing more fiction. So I met Damon at that event, and I met a whole lot of other people who have been on this show, including Honoré Quarter, who, by the way, I just interviewed again yesterday. She'll officially be the first recurring guest on the Wordslinger podcast, and she's actually releasing a book that you're going to find very interesting. I'll wait to let you hear about that. But that event was a nice jumping off point for a lot of connections that have led to great opportunities for me. And so I can attest. I mean, I can tell you from personal experience that that's a good thing to get involved in. And so this guest, Damon Courtney, I can't wait till you hear this interview. He's the founder of Bookfunnel, which is a great service for getting advanced reader copies out to your readers of your book. That's what we're talking about here. But also, if you like to do freebie giveaways. The name Bookfunnel is an apt name because, we often offer books as part of the sign-on bonus, basically, the freebie that people get when they get on our mailing list. So Damon saw a need, a gaping hole, if you will, in that industry, and filled it with something pretty remarkable that he's constantly tinkering with and upgrading and updating. So I'm excited for you to have this interview. If you're not an author, I hope you'll listen to this anyway, because Bookfunnel is it's indicative of something that is a trend in marketing that I think all entrepreneurs should pay attention to. You should always offer something, for your readers / potential clients to get on your mailing list. Bookfunnel is a great way to deliver this kind of content. So pay attention to this interview with Damon, and I hope you get I know you'll get a lot out of it. And then stick around afterward for a brief wrap-up. So take care of yourselves, and I'll see you on the other side. Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in. Today I'm talking to somebody that I've actually met in person a couple of times now, and was very glad to. He and I met originally at the sort of what was that called, Damon? It was like the original Smarter Artist Summit.
It was the Colonist Summit, because we were all supposed to be colonizing the world of Altera that they were creating, but
right.
We didn't end up doing any of that. It ended up being more of a self-publishing convention kind of thing.
Yeah, I think. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
But really small. There was over like 25 of us in the room. So
Yeah.
It was like a really small, intimate sort of affair thing.
Yeah. Which led to a lot of other stuff. It's amazing what came out of that room. Let me start by saying this is Damon Courtney. He's the founder of Bookfunnel. Now, if you're an author, an indie author, especially right now, you may be familiar with Bookfunnel. It's a fantastic service for delivering ebooks to your readers and making it a lot easier. I gotta tell you, man, I love the service because I had so much trouble. Everyone who does this has so much trouble delivering this content to readers because half the time they don't know how to put it on their device. And at one point, I think I actually did a YouTube video explaining how to sideload content onto your device. But then you got to do one for every ridiculous device that comes out. So this service is amazing if you're an author trying to get your content out to people. It's especially helpful for funnel stuff, which is why it's named Bookfunnel.
Right.
So, yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna let you describe that. But you're more than just the founder of Bookfunnel. You're also an author of 2 or 3 different epic fantasy books, which are very cool. I love the covers, by the way.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, no, I actually got into, so I've been a programmer my whole life, but I got into the self-publishing game in 2011, and I'm small potatoes. I have my trilogy, but that is what led to Bookfunnel, was the ideas of everybody sort of, if you listen to any of the sort of major podcasts or even follow the sort of industry, the idea of using a free book to get people into your funnel is not new, and it's a marketing thing that's been around forever. Using something as a lead or a loss or a lead magnet of some kind to get them in the door and then sell them other stuff. So. And I was starting to get into that and was like, okay, cool. Yes, I'm going to give away my first book for free, the first book in the trilogy, because then people will come in and hopefully buy the other 2 books. Yeah. And realized that there wasn't any good way to get a book to people. So I kind of looked around at what people were doing and looked at some of the bigger names in self-publishing. I mean, the people who sell millions of books versus my 10. Yeah. And their solutions were, here's a zip file with a Mobi, an EPUB, and a PDF. Good luck.
Right.
And, I found one who actually they had gone to the trouble of making a sort of page on their WordPress site that said, okay, here's how you do it. Right. And they kind of they embedded various videos from YouTube of, sort of how to get it onto a couple of devices. But the problem is, even if you hit the major ones, you say, okay, cool, here's an iPad, here's a Kindle Fire, and here's a Kindle Paperwhite. And that'll catch a large portion of the audience. But what about Android devices? Well, not, every Android is different from every other. And so, while you can generally make an iPad video and probably catch most iPad readers, well, next year, Apple's going to come out with a new version of iOS, and the instructions may not be the same.
Right, exactly.
And so that is, and that's part of the headache that we take. We take on that responsibility of keeping track of the industry and keeping up with new devices, and that means that every time Amazon puts out a new Kindle, we buy the new Kindle, and we make sure that we have our process correct for advising, new readers. Amazon recently came out with the Kindle Oasis, which was their the second version of the Voyage, which my wife has. I got her one for Christmas last year. And so the Oasis is like the new high-end Kindle model. And, I mean, it wasn't a week after it went on sale before we started getting readers who were asking, how do I get this on my Kindle Oasis? Yeah. And so, we have to keep up with that stuff, which is great because that's what we do, so you don't have to. You don't have the desk littered with the corpses of tablets and e-readers like mine is. And
yeah, believe me, I don't want that. I've got enough headaches as it is, so anything that makes my life easier as an author, I applaud and appreciate. And so you had the idea for this. Okay, I always tell people, so I may be lying to everybody, but I always tell people that you started talking about this idea at that Colony Summit. Is that true or not true?
I actually had the beta for it before I went to the Colonist Summit. Okay. So it's the idea had been around for a couple of years, and I hadn't had time to work on it because I was still working on my books. And I had sort of, I'd made a mental promise to myself that I had to finish the trilogy that I was working on because I knew that if I got involved with the Bookfunnel idea that time for writing would just fall to zero.
Right.
And I felt like, well, I didn't want to leave people hang. The 5 readers that I had, I didn't want to leave them hanging with 2 books of a 3-book trilogy. So I wanted to finish the trilogy. So once I finished it, then I really kind of, buckled down and started work on it.
Right.
And that was in November of the year before last. And all of that is, it's all working at night in my spare time. I have a day job that I still have to work. And so, and I have kids and family obligations and all that sort of stuff.
Right.
So I started working on it in November, and I had it sort of ready I don't even call it beta, like a really, really early alpha when I hit the Colonist Summit there in March of year before last. So, or in March of last year, not this year.
Right.
And so it was past the idea stage at that point, but it definitely wasn't ready for prime time when I was talking about it at the Colonist Summit. It was really sort of hey, I've got this cool thing that I've built, and now I need some people who can test it.
Right. You had a nice room full of volunteers. And
I did.
It's kind of become the de facto delivery method for ebooks at this point. I mean, for at least at that local distribution level. Like, if I want to gift a book to somebody, going through Amazon is a big pain, but doing it through Bookfunnel has been very easy. So
yeah. Well, and especially since you can have the sort of download link that you give to everybody, and you can just say, here's the link that, and you can just hand that out to everybody. Or you can, we even have through the certified mail feature, you can gift somebody a book, and it will send an individual copy of that book to that one person.
Yeah.
But we have several small publishers who are using us now and doing that sort of. They set up the book. Every book has a download link, but it also has sort of a short link that we use to make it easier for people to type in. And we have publishers who've taken those short links and printed them on promotional material when they go to book conventions. So they pass out postcards, and on the back is just, here, go type this little code into your browser and get your free book.
Yeah, that's basically what I do. I have a whole bunch of cards that I printed up that have it has a link to sign up for my mailing list, but that's where it goes basically. So and I know you guys are doing some you're experimenting though with the mailing list idea right now, right?
We've got the giveaways feature coming up where basically we will take their email address for you. So you can send them to us, and we have a really nice, simple landing page that just says, okay, great, give us your email address, and you're signing up to join our reader group. And then from there, the author can take and export the email list as a CSV, and eventually we'll have MailChimp integration and stuff so that we go directly to your mailing list provider.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're probably going to release that later this week. I guess later this week is this week. It's Thursday. So probably early part of
There's not much week left, actually.
Yeah, there's no week left for that.
So that's very cool because that's another pain point for the beginning author because, a lot of this stuff, it gets out of hand. You get a whole list, right? I almost want to make the indie author checklist and offer it.
There's so much to learn. I feel so bad. The authors contact us, and some of them will sign up, and they'll say, "Hey, listen, an author friend of mine told me, I have 2 books, and they told me I should sign up for Bookfunnel. So now I'm signed up, and what?"
Yeah.
And I'm our people are going, okay, well, probably the next thing you might want to do is try building. Do you have a mailing list? Well, I do, but I'm not really sure what to do with it. And so there's so much to learn.
Yeah, and we take it for granted, I think, because you and I we're tied in with guys, like the self-publishing podcast guys and that whole community. We're on all the various boards and groups, and we tend to pay attention to that world. So we're on the inside, so we forget that people are coming in with no knowledge.
Well, and I think that I was talking to my wife about this and Bookfunnel and just sort of software in general and anything, right? We started this a few years ago when building a mailing list was like, and you need a mailing list, but it was sort of kind of offhandedly mentioned, and then there wasn't Kindle Select, there wasn't all of these. Oh, you need an author website, you need a squeeze page. What about a tripwire page? And you need to Facebook ads, and by the way, you need a reader magnet. And we learned all of these things as they came into being, one little piece at a time. And so while I am certainly not like a best-selling indie author or anything, because I published my first book in 2011, I've now had 5 years to pick up all of this information one little snippet at a time. But if you're
Right.
coming into it now, if you just got your first book and you're ready to go, yeah, you have a million things to learn.
Right. Yeah. And the list just keeps growing.
Yeah, every day it seems,
So now I don't know if this is a feature or not. If it's not a feature, I'm officially requesting this feature on air. Okay. But it would be cool if I had the ability to say, go to this web address and pick out any book you want, and you get that one book for free.
That's on our list. You're not the first one to ask for it. So we have a to-do list a mile long, but one of the features on our roadmap is what we call bundles, where you can bundle a group of books together and then either say, the reader's allowed to get all 4 of these books, or the reader is allowed to pick one of these books from this bundle of 4.
Right.
Because we have several authors that do that. We have a number of authors, like Mark Dawson gives away 2 or 3 books for joining his mailing list, and he has a big catalog. Yeah, I know you and Nick Thacker both give away 2 or 3 books.
Yeah.
And, right now it's sort of, here's a link, here's a link, here's a link. Here's your 3 books.
Mm-hmm.
And we want to try and make that process easier for somebody who says, okay, I got 3 books. Can I just get them all without having to go through the process 3 different times?
Right.
And so, and for most, once they get through the first process, they've learned how to do it. And so the next 2, they just go tap, 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 and they've got it.
Yeah.
But it would still, we're working on the UI to try to make that easier. But then, the other piece was quite a few authors have, listen, I'd give them any book in my catalog for free. I don't care which one they pick.
Yeah.
But they can only get one, and so that's the trick, is getting them to only get the one.
Right. I remember way back in the day when I first got on the mailing list for SPP, and those guys had here, go to this page that lists every single one of our books, pick one, email Sean, and Sean will, and tell Sean you want that book, and Sean will email that book to you.
Exactly. And that's the problem, is that it has to be all done by hand.
Right.
Because the authors that we have that are doing it right now, that's how they're doing it. They want a way to automate that, because they say, okay, well, here's 5 books to pick from. And even if they have 5 Bookfunnel links, one for each of those books, they still have to ask the reader. The reader has to reply, and then they reply back with okay, here's the link to that one book.
Right. Right. So, okay, this started as an idea because you were having trouble getting free books to readers, right?
Yeah.
So what was the progression from there? And I mean, you came to the summit. Excuse me, hiccup there, folks. Sorry. You came to the summit with that beta already kind of in the works. But what was the progression from there?
The progression up to the beta was just, like any software that I've built over the years. I have an idea, it's usually some problem I need to solve first.
Right.
And so I have a problem I need to solve, and then I solve it, and I go, hey, I think other people might like this too. And, most of my projects up till now have all been sort of just open source, kind of like, hey, I made this cool thing. If you want to use it, you can use it too.
Right.
And Bookfunnel was the first one that I thought, this might actually have some potential. I had the idea for probably 2 years before I actually could sit down and work on it. And I kept looking up every month, waiting, knowing that somebody was going to solve this problem before me. Somebody was going to beat me to it, right?
Yeah.
I wasn't the only guy who was seeing that this was a problem, and I certainly wasn't the only one. I could hear people on podcasts talking about it, saying, man, sideloading, what a pain in the butt. Somebody needs to solve this. And I kept going, somebody's going to beat me to it. Somebody's going to beat me to it. And by the time I started working on it, nobody had really come up with anything, or
Right.
I certainly hadn't heard anything. So once I got it to the beta stage, I really needed readers. I needed authors to use it, and I had a couple of them, and some from the Colonist Summit who were using it, but they weren't moving a lot of units, and so it was really hard until you get a large enough sample size. It's hard to know whether your stuff is really good or if it really needs more of that work.
Right.
And as an engineer, you, much like a writer, sort of, sometimes judging your own work. As an engineer, I have a tendency to look at things and go, "Hey, that's pretty good. It's really easy to use if you're a software engineer." And then once users start using it, you go, "Oh, yeah, that doesn't make any sense at all. I don't know why I made it do that."
Yeah. I think that it is very easy to use. I mean, logging in is kind of tricky.
Yeah, and that comes from my, just as an engineering background, of not wanting to. If, for those who aren't using Bookfunnel, we don't use passwords. You
Right.
come, you put in your email address, we email you a link, and you log in. You
Right.
click the link and you log in. Now, once you're logged in, you stay logged in, and it keeps everything in your browser so that you stay logged in indefinitely. But I don't like storing passwords.
Yeah.
Too many. I'm not a cryptologist. I'm not a big security guy, so I don't feel comfortable. So many people, Sony, Home Depot, such bigger companies than me have been broken into in the last couple of years,
That's
and
true,
their
yeah.
data stolen, that I was just, I don't want to deal with that. So
and
like,
and I'm kind of just messing with you too, because I actually kind of like the fact that I don't have to keep track of a password, and and it does stay logged in. I mean, I don't think, I can't remember the last time I had to request a login. Like
you shouldn't generally, unless you're
Yeah.
logging in a new device. Every time you
Right.
bring up a new device, my iPhone stays it logged in all the time, but I had to log in that first time, click that link and on my phone and bring it up.
Yeah.
But yeah, the only problem the only place that's really become a problem is we have more authors now who are using virtual assistants or personal assistants, and so that becomes a bigger pain. But we have a new feature on the roadmap that's probably going to come out in a couple of weeks that will alleviate that pain.
Oh.
But yeah, once again, that's just my security conscious. I don't like I don't want your password. So
Yeah. And yeah, that seems like it's fairly secure, though. I mean, that
Yeah.
seems like it would be pretty secure, because unless you've got access to that email account.
Well, and that's we've had a couple of authors ask us. We're like, well, what if somebody gets access? So anybody who has access to my email can log into my account. And I'm thinking, if they have access to your email, they're going for your Bank of America.
Yeah, you got bigger problems. That hacker in Taiwan isn't going after your book list.
Yeah, he's going after your Chase Bank. He doesn't care anything for your Bookfunnel account. I
Or
promise.
he might. Maybe it's a very sophisticated piracy program.
Yeah, exactly.
I really dig it. This is by far the easiest way to share books. I still have other things floating around out there, so I don't get as many downloads through your service as I probably would, because of all the other services I use who are like, we'll just store your book and then we'll give it to them, But I would rather do this, and I think a lot of people are kind of coming around to this. I've been pimping this to people like Johnny Andrews in his Reign of Reads, that whole program. I don't know where things landed with that, but I know he was impressed by Bookfunnel. So
we chatted about it, and it's one of those things where he's really busy running his new company, and I'm really busy doing my thing, and so it's like, we're going to come back around to that.
Yeah.
And so and I'm sure that we will at some point, but yeah.
See, here's what's insane. Okay, I already essentially run like 4 different. Well, okay, I'm a host or co-host on at least 4 different podcasts right now, and Johnny just asked me to jump in on his new podcast. So yeah, we're all very busy. So okay, and that was not an official announcement, anyone, so don't listen to anything I just said. So I'm really impressed though, and it's doing well. It's growing.
Yes, very, very rapidly too.
Yeah. So, and I mean, you've got some big names in the program. I mean, Mark Dawson alone, he's a commodity.
Well, and he was really our first real beta tester.
Yeah.
We had like I said, we had a couple people who were using it a little bit, and then Mark saw a post that I'd made on Kboards and said, "Hey, I'll beta test it for you if you want to let me try it." And I thought, why on earth wouldn't I?
Right.
And it was great because he was doing 150 signups a day. I mean, like, he was moving units, and he gives away 2 or 3 books with each sign up. So we really had an opportunity there to put it in front of readers, give it the real contact with the enemy, and start to figure out very, very quickly that, this needs to be polished, and we need to change this experience, and why are people getting confused by this? And then looking at it again, taking a look at it with fresh eyes and saying, how did they miss the thing that they should have clicked, and figuring out how to make all that better. And now, when the service first really opened in early alpha to early authors, and then as we were first sort of taking on clients, which was back in November and December, our average conversion rate hovered around about 65%, which, not all of that is necessarily the process. For there is some attrition due to people just going, it's not worth it for a free book. But there's just as much because, well, your cover needs a little work, and maybe your summary could use a better description and a better hook. Yeah. But we did know that some people were walking away because the process was a little harder to get through. And then we started looking at all of that support. What were we getting the most support requests on? And then seeing how can we figure out and fix those devices specifically. Mm-hmm. And so, back in November and December, our conversion rate hovered around a daily average of about 65%, and now we hover around 85%. Yeah. And so, and a lot of that is we have more authors using it, so more readers are introduced to it. But and I think we have a lot more repeats now. We see a lot of readers coming back in multiple times, whereas in the earlier days it was totally new. Readers had never seen this interface, had never seen this experience before, and for some it was tap tap, oh my god, I got my book, that was amazing. And for others it was tap 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 tap, I'm not sure what to do here, help. Right. And then, but again, it's always, people have always said, even years ago when people were talking about sideloading, that it was a process of education. Some of this can be fixed by software, and other pieces are just having to teach them how to use the device that they have. And that's what our support staff does when they ask us for help. Our team walks them through it step by step, and we hold their hands. And we have a lot of older readers, and they tell us, if you're just like, I'm 87 years old and I'm a technophobe, I don't know how to do this. And it's like, well, don't worry about it. We do this all the time. We will get you through it step by step.
Yeah. Yeah. I get a lot of email from older readers who are wonderful and love the books. But, when it comes to downloading these, it doesn't seem to matter how much you simplify it.
And that's what we've learned, and I know that intuitively as a software guy, but most of my career has been spent building software for guys like me, for building software for people who write software. Yeah. And so it's hard. You get into a mindset where it's just a lot easier to know that they'll figure it out. I don't need to make that too much simpler. They're going to figure it out. Yeah. And that was totally not the case getting in with Bookfunnel. It absolutely is a support business. Yeah. And no matter how easy we make the steps, we always get people who won't get through it. And that's okay. That's where the support comes in, and that's where we help them through it. Yeah,
yeah. It's good. That's a good attitude to have and a good business model to have, I think. I know it's labor intensive, or it can be.
It can be, but it's most of them are, it's really rare that we get the sort of rude, really angry person. Yeah. It happens, and we kill them with kindness. We don't lose our patience. We are just, our support staff is trained to be just as polite and nice as possible. Yeah. And so most of the people come in and they're just very apologetic. I'm so sorry. I'm not very good with these devices. Can you help? I know. And how could you not want to help them?
Right, exactly.
How could you not want to do everything you can to just help them? They're just as nice as can be, and I want them to get their book.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk about Kindle Fire.
Shoot.
Because that seems to be the one platform on which people have the most difficulty getting it to work.
Absolutely.
Why is that?
Because Amazon makes it hard.
Yeah.
So look at it this way. Amazon has it on the Kindle Fire, especially, which is based on Android. So it's a fork of the Fire OS is a fork of Android that they then put all of their own stuff into. So Amazon owns everything in the Kindle, soup to nuts, the same way that Apple owns every piece of the iPhone. They made the hardware. They didn't make all the chips and everything the way Apple does, but they built all the hardware exactly the way they wanted it, and they built the software the way that they wanted it. So if Amazon had made it where you could just download a Mobi file, tap it, and it would open and in your Kindle library, we would be done. That's it. It's as simple as that. But they actively choose not to, and instead, on some of the Kindle Fires, the Mobi won't open, and on others, it will open, but it won't stay in your library. So if you tap it and open it, you'll never, and you read it, and if you read it all the way to completion, hooray, you're done. But if you go looking for it again, you'll never find it because it's buried in some downloads folder deep in your device. Yeah. So again, they make it hard. And so our process is to we need to get the book to you as quickly and efficiently as possible, but also in a way that is going to be the most comfortable for readers. So Amazon has this process where you can email a book to your Kindle. Every Kindle device and every Kindle app has an @kindle.com email address associated with it. And if you email your book there, it will go to your cloud and it will show up on your Kindle devices. The problem was that had a lot of steps too. Like there really is no way to get around. There are steps to get through for the Kindle Fire. And so they would go through that process. But once they emailed the book, sometimes Amazon just rejects the book and they don't say why. They just they just drop it on the floor and it never shows up in your library. And so then we would get support. We used to use that method, and we got a lot of support in the beginning from people who just said, my book never showed up. And I'm like, okay, well, did you try this? Did you try this? Check, make sure you don't have a typo. Did you try this? I tried all that. It still didn't show up. Okay, well, I don't know what Amazon did with it.
Yeah.
I don't have any visibility into that. And then sometimes it would show up like 4 hours later. It's all a process on Amazon servers. So Amazon's in control of how slow or how fast everything goes over there. So we ended up using the app that we'd actually written for the Android experience. We started using that for Kindle Fire as well, even though the app has to be side-loaded. So once again, we're back to a side-loading problem,
right.
But it's a problem that has a specific set number of steps. And once you go through the steps, you have the app, and every book you get from any author on Bookfunnel is just one tap of a button. So if I go through the steps one time and I get the app installed, the next time Kevin Tumlinson sends me a book, or the next time I get a book from Nick Thacker or any other Bookfunnel author, you just tap the download button and boom, it goes right to your Kindle library.
Wow. What is this app?
It's Bookfunnel. That's the
Bookfunnel.
Bookfunnel.
There's a Bookfunnel app. Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
And so and on Android, it's in the Google Play Store. It's really easy to install, and it's just not as easy for the Kindle Fire. Amazon won't allow our app in their app store. They have a very specific clause in their licensing agreement that says, in their terms of service, that says any app relating to anything to do with ebooks is not allowed. So that's it. They won't allow our app. If they would, then it would be a lot easier for readers to install our app and then get their books.
That's interesting.
So I know that you get, when you get an email from somebody who just says, hey, I just wanted a free book, and now they want me to install an app to get a free book. Like, well,
Yeah.
I don't know how to tell you this.
You're spam.
Exactly. Well, and it's like, I wish I could tell you in a very nice way, you're not going to get this book onto your Kindle Fire without a few steps.
Right.
It's just Amazon doesn't make it easy to do it. And I don't foresee them making it easy sometime in the future. They let you sideload these books, but they have no interest in letting you get free books. They want you to get all your books from Amazon.
Right. Yeah. Never mind that most of these free books will actually lead to them selling more books. But
right.
Whatever.
Well, and they won't even, Kobo will let you make a book free. Just go into your Kobo dashboard and say, I want the book to be zero price. Amazon still won't. I mean, we're years in, so it's obvious that it's not an engineering problem they just couldn't figure out how to solve. Yeah. They're not going to let you do it. They don't want you to do free books. That's what Kindle Select is for. And you've got your 5 free days, and you can do all that sort of great stuff. And, we've all figured out the perma-free workaround by posting it for free in other stores and then badgering them until they change the price.
Right.
That's the only way to do it. And truly, if you really want your book to get to readers as easily as possible without any hassle, make it perma-free everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, Bookfunnel can be as easy. I can make Bookfunnel as easy as I can possibly get it. I'll never be able to match Amazon's store experience because they built everything to work exactly the way that it does.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of unfortunate that they're, I don't know, whatever. I could lament about Amazon for hours, but
every indie
author can. It's like they work against their own source of income. So,
yeah.
But whatever. Well, I mean, I have to say, the service itself, I mean, it's all very straightforward to me, except for Kindle Fire. Apparently that one just baffles everyone. But I'm looking at one right now, and I'm like, well, that looks pretty straightforward. I don't know why that wouldn't work, but I get people all the time complaining, all the time. And they get mad at me like I somehow have rooked them. I cheated them by getting them on my mailing list and not delivering the book.
And we get that. We don't get so many of those, sort of people thinking they got tricked or something like that, because the app is not required for the Kindle Fire. There are other ways to get the book there, and we tell people, look, the app is the quickest way to get your book wirelessly, without having to go through other steps. But if you don't want to install it, we don't make you install it. Here are two other very good methods for getting the book onto your Kindle Fire if you don't want to go through that. So we just tell authors, listen, if you have a reader who's upset, you have a reader who's complaining, send them to help@bookfunnel.com. Our support staff will walk them through the process.
Yeah.
And that's what we do.
Yeah. I had no idea there was an app, so now I need to tell people that. And it's kind of a shame they don't allow it in the store. That's just dumb, but whatever.
Yeah, because if they did, then we would just say, great, click here and download the app from Amazon's App Store. And once you have the app installed, tap here to get your book. That's how it is on Android. I mean, those are the steps. Install the app, tap here, get your book. You're done.
Yeah. Okay, so what's the future of Bookfunnel?
Well, we get a lot of people asking us about audiobooks, and so that's something that we're looking into later this year. The bigger problem with audiobooks is just the size of them and figuring out the best way to get those to readers. We're working on direct sales, people being able to sell books from your website, and then we handle the delivery. Because that's the second most requested thing that we get from people all the time. And we actually have people who are using it now for sales, even though we don't recommend it because it's not really built for that yet.
Yeah.
We tell them, it's like, well, we have something coming, but it's not due until the later half of this year.
Well, I'll tell you though. I use Squarespace for my website, and it's got a nice little e-commerce solution, and I can actually use Bookfunnel. I haven't done this yet, but I was thinking I might do it. But I mean, I can actually put that behind the paywall on Squarespace, and it would work perfectly. But you're saying you've got a solution coming up for that?
Well, we have a solution that will basically, once the reader has paid their money and they've been sent to us, or once they've paid the money through us, we give them the book through a download link that is specific to them. So it's not one that can be shared with other people and potentially, go wide so that someone else can get the book that didn't pay for it.
Yeah.
So we email them, and then we would email them a receipt and say, click here to download your book. And then eventually, one of the plans that we have is to implement a sort of library system where any book that you receive from us, if you've created a login, we will remember that book and we'll keep it in your library so that you can download it later. We get a lot of people who wipe their Kindles or somehow something got hosed and their whole Android device disappeared. Like they had to reboot everything or restore everything, and then they come asking us, "Can I get all the books that I've gotten from Bookfunnel before?" And we don't currently track any of that information.
Yeah.
I don't have the list of books that you ever got from us.
Yeah.
And so that is something that we hope to implement to make that easier on readers.
Yeah.
So that, and because they a lot of people have no storage space on their device, and so they're really just like, they read a couple of books and then they delete them, and they read a couple more and they delete them, and because they have no space left on their device, so they're constantly swapping books out. And so many of those will actually like save the link that they downloaded the book from and then come back and re-download it again later when they're ready to read it.
Yeah. Oh gosh, I never even thought about that. I mean, I've never run out of space for books, but maybe I'm doing it wrong.
I haven't either, but I guess maybe I don't. I mean, I have an iPhone.
It's those people who go and download thousands and thousands of the free books without reading them. That's the people who are running out of space.
Well, and I think most of the ones that we see are also on the the lowest level Kindle Fire starts as 8 gigs of storage.
Yeah.
And the most of the small little cheapy Android phones that sell have 8 gigs of storage. Well, when you take up the operating system and everything else and all the pre-installed apps, you're really left with like 4 or 5 gigs to store data. Now, when it comes to ebooks, that should be quite a lot, because I mean, an ebook runs about, the average ebook is a megabyte or 2. But once you start installing Netflix and you start installing all these other apps, you run out of space really, really quickly. My phone has 64 gigs. I don't think I've ever run out of space on it. I guess I'm not installing bucket loads of apps and books and everything else. I've got probably 100 books sitting in the Kindle app on my phone. I read a lot of books, but once again, they're pretty small. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I run out of space frequently on my iPhone.
Oh, really?
Not for books necessarily, but yeah, I tend to, because I don't know what happens. Whatever. That's a whole other conversation. It gets out of control. Like, oh, I'll try this app. That app looked good, and then it starts downloading like data behind the scenes or whatever. So
Yeah, exactly.
I have to be very cautious. Okay, so we're up against time, but I'm really glad you came on, because this was Bookfunnel is something I promote to people because it works exactly the way you would hope it would work. It solves a problem that a lot of authors have. So I pimp you, man.
I appreciate the pimping.
Of course, and and also there's a little bit of I get to tell people, yeah, I was there. I
was there at the beginning.
Yeah. Even though apparently there was already an alpha version of it before you came along, but I helped in the logo design, I gave my opinions.
You gave your vote, and your vote was important. But yeah, that's just it. It's like in that early alpha, you guys were all the colonist guys on Slack.
Yeah,
you guys were there for the website and for the logo contest and stuff like that. So.
Okay.
And you're a fellow Houston boy, so we're both from the same town.
Yeah, that's true, man. We never get together. Like most of the people I interview on this show who are in the Houston area, we never hang out. What's up with that? We're both busy. All right. Okay, man. Well, for everybody listening, you can. Sorry, I'm having a rough throat day. If you are interested in learning more about Bookfunnel, you can go to bookfunnel.com. You can also check out Damon's website, damonjcourtney.com. And, of course, all of that is going to be in the show notes. So fear not. You don't have to write anything down if you're driving. Damon, man, let's remedy that whole getting together situation, man. We need to.
Absolutely. We should either grab a lunch or something.
Exactly. And you and I are both karaoke lovers.
Indeed we are,
We should do some karaoke.
Yeah, totally.
All right, man. Okay. Everybody else hang out, and we'll see you after the interview. And
hey. Thanks for having me on, Kevin.
Thanks, Damon. Thanks a lot, man. Take care. That was my interview with Damon Courtney. Damon's a great guy. And I found out while we were at the Smarter Artist Summit, because I mentioned karaoke there at the end. We had wrapped up basically for the week, and we went out for a big shindig one night after everything had finished, and we went to this karaoke bar in Austin. And it's pretty impressive because there are multiple rooms. There's a big stage, but there's all these rooms upstairs and downstairs that you can rent, where you can have private groups. And Damon and I ended up in the same room, and that dude did Sweet Transvestite. I'm calling you out, Damon, and it was awesome. I think I swore to him I would never tell anyone, or at least never reveal it. But sorry, man. Sorry. But we had some fun. That was a blast, and it's always good to connect with people like this. That's kind of, I guess that's a theme of the show now. This episode is this idea of connecting with people on that personal level, so that you can utilize these opportunities as they come up. You get out there and you discover new things. I would never have known about Bookfunnel. Honestly, I probably would have heard of it eventually, but I knew about it from the start. I got in right from the beginning. I was actually part of the group who helped him pick the name, helped him pick the logo, gave him feedback on the service. So, I would never have had that opportunity had I not gone to that first Colony Summit and spent some time with him and the 25 or so other folks who were there. Never would have connected with those people, and I never would have had that opportunity. So that's reason enough to get out there. I'm calling out to all introverts. Okay, I guess this is something that's on my heart right now. So we're just going to discuss it a little further, because what I want to get across to everybody is how important it is to have these personal relationships. We as authors, and I'm speaking to the authors in the crowd, but entrepreneurs in general. Entrepreneurs in general tend to be somewhat outgoing in most industries. But if you happen to be in the arts or something, something that requires you to spend lots of time alone, you tend to prefer to be alone. But eventually, we all need help from other people. I spent years kind of denying this. Honestly, I worked very hard. I've had multiple businesses in my career that don't exist now, and I think the biggest reason they don't is because I was the one doing, if not 100% of the work, then 99%, and that takes a lot out of you, and you become burned out and exhausted. And when I was much younger and had limitless energy and limitless time, it was much easier for me to kind of keep things going, but I still never quite achieved the success I was after. I didn't start seeing that kind of success until I got wise to this idea that I need people in my life. And it wasn't like I was just rejecting people. I wasn't turning people away. It was just that I didn't actively go out and try to cultivate relationships. And when I did, I tried to do it in such a way like I was trying to convince them, help me. Just give me what I need so that I can move on from you, which is pretty selfish, and I've learned from those experiences, and I've grown from those experiences, and you can too. So I don't know who I'm talking to out in the audience today. I know someone out there is shaking or nodding their head saying, yeah, that's what I needed to hear. So this one's for you, my friend. So anyway, thank you so much for tuning in. I enjoyed this interview with Damon a lot. I do need to get together with him. There are quite a few authors in the Houston area now that I've connected with. Here's what's bizarre. I didn't connect to any of these authors until I started connecting to people all over the planet. So people right here in my backyard. I need to throw like a little party and just get everyone together in one place. But Damon and I definitely need to get together for some coffee or something. But you out there, take care of yourself. I'm so glad you tuned in. If you would like to help support the show and help it to grow, there is something you can do for me. If you will go to iTunes and if you will track down the show, type Wordslinger Podcast in that search engine, and when it comes up, go in and rate the show and review the show. And it only takes a few minutes. I know it's a little weird to figure out how to do it, and I know it's not easy, but and if you need help, feel free to contact me. Go to wordslingerpodcast.com, and you can email me and say, Kevin, I don't have a clue how to review the show, but I would really like to. And I will help you. I promise. So, but I could use those. If the more reviews I get, the more discoverable the show becomes. And the goal, one of the biggest goals of this show, is to reach people just like you, to give them hope, to give them ideas, to give them inspiration. That's what I built this show for. The show is all about story. You hear that from the very beginning. It's the story of each of us. It's the story of every individual. The story of, the entrepreneur and the story of the author, who are, to me, the same thing. But it's the story of all these quirky individuals out there who have discovered something unique and beautiful about life. And I want to keep telling that story. I can keep telling that story, but I want to tell that story to more people because all of you deserve it. So thanks for helping me out with that. I really appreciate it. And for my friends at Drafted Digital, the unofficial sponsor of the Wordslinger Podcast, I don't even know how they feel about that, and I've never asked them. But I do it because I am let's just call me a true believer. I'm one of these people who, once I'm on board with something, I fully support it with everything I got. So if you are an author and you're looking for a way to reach a global audience, I recommend going to Drafted Digital and signing up for their service. Here's the deal. It's all free. They are the best bunch of people I've ever encountered. It's why when they came to me and asked me to be their director of marketing, that's why I said yes. I don't get paid to do this spot. I don't get, I'm not even going to try to get paid to do this spot. I do this because I believe in the product. I believe in the service. So if you can trust me, I guarantee you can trust them. So go check out Drafted Digital. That's draft2digital.com. And while you're there, you might also take a look at books2read.com. That's books2read.com, where you can try out the universal book links, which I'm now putting in every book. I'm going to revamp my entire book page on my homepage as soon as I get a chance to use these, because they're amazing. They allow me to scan for where my book appears online, everywhere it appears online, including all the various globalized Amazon stores, regional Amazon stores. So anytime a reader clicks on a link to my book, they get to choose the storefront that works for them and make it their default if they want, so that every time they click on a link from me from now on, they'll go straight to my product page on the store that they prefer. Think about how awesome that is if you're an author. That means you only have to create one link, and it goes to every store you have online. It doesn't cost you anything. You can sign up for a free account. You can add your affiliate links, your affiliate codes, so you can make a little extra scratch off of each sale. You can do a custom URL. Like if you go to books2read.com/Coelho medallion or Coelho-medallion, either one of those, I've grabbed both. Those will take you straight to Coelho Medallion on any storefront that you prefer. That is powerful. That is awesome. So I hope that you'll try that out. So go check out Draft to Digital. If you are exclusive to Amazon, you can still use the universal book links at Books to Read. That's a great way to be able to put those books in front of readers worldwide. They get to go to the store, the Amazon store of their choice. But what I would recommend is start kind of thinking long term and strategically about your writing career, and start thinking about going wide. And if you don't know what that means, email me, contact me, go to wordslingerpodcast.com, write an email to me and ask me what going wide means if you don't understand what it means, and how you can do it. You can also, I've got a couple of blog posts going on Draft to Digital's blog. So go to drafttodigital.com and click on blog, and you will find a couple of blog posts about, right now I'm focusing on book descriptions. That's kind of a thing right now. But you can also find, there are also blog posts, past, present, and future, that will describe things like going wide, reaching a global marketplace, that sort of thing. So happy to help you with that. Anything you need, customer support there is great. This is probably the longest ad read ever, because I didn't actually write anything down, but I'm super excited about being a part of this company, and I think that you can get a lot out of it. So that's it for me. That's it for the Wordslinger podcast this week. I hope you enjoyed this interview with Damon Courtney. Check the show notes for all the links to all the good stuff he does. Go to bookfunnel.com and check that out. Take care of yourselves. If you're listening to this on the day it releases, we're going into the Labor Day weekend. So have a happy, fun, and safe Labor Day weekend. Be with your family. Eat some barbecue. Enjoy yourself. And see you next time.